All right, so now we're going to talk about how to shade 3D objects. Okay, so you guys should be pretty familiar with this form. It's a sphere. Okay, now, if I were to take the form away, you would see a flat surface. Now, I know you know it's a flat surface. I know you know it's my sketchbook, okay? So if we were to look at a piece of paper, you know that this is flat because there is no value change, okay? But if I were to make this piece of paper three-dimensional, okay, how do you know it's still a flat piece of paper? It's because the light source. If you look, the light is hitting this directly. It is lighter, and it is slowly graying as it turns away from the light. Okay, anytime you want to make something stick out, make it lighter. Anytime you want to make something curl away or even make a dent, you can make that darker, okay? Now you can look at this styrofoam ball and you can see the dents and such, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to do a sphere, which is the basic of every kind of media test. Okay, so we learn about the medium by doing value scales and shading spheres because you want to know what it can do and what it can't. So I'm going to show you the easiest way to make a sphere because easy is good, right? So there is no black on this sphere. There is a white circle, and then as it goes down, it is gray. Okay, we know that there's really no gray in the ball itself. If we chopped it up, put it under light, it would be white, but it's because of the light acting on the surface. So if you see this value right here, it should remind you of that dirty tissue color. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, and you can see that there's a light here and a shadow here. So that is how I'm going to represent this sphere on the sketchbook. Okay, so I'm going to move it over though because I do need to work. All right, so I've got this gray on my tissue. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw that sphere using the gray because that dirty tissue color is awesome. Okay. So you should see a little bit of that starting to emerge. Now I'm going to lighten up a little bit because, you know, a fat finger in a tissue sometimes makes things just a little bit funny. It's not a sharp object. Okay, now when you look, you can see that there is too big of a transition between the white and the gray. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a clean tissue, and it will help me get some of those pieces of eraser off of there too. And I'm just going to soften that transition. Man, that was easy, okay? You didn't even have to worry that much about drawing a sphere. The bad thing is, though, that we will need to make the outline of the sphere show up. Now, you really don't see an outline of the sphere. It is because of the shading. So there is not a black outline around your sphere. So I want you to get over the outlining, okay? And so this shadow underneath the sphere is actually going to be the thing that is going to help reveal the sphere with contrast. So I'm going to draw a bit of that shadow. I'm not going to copy it exactly, okay? Because I know you guys are wanting to get started on your own. Okay, so that is one way that you can create an easy sphere that looks 3D. Now, please don't worry too much about making that sphere perfectly round. If you want to get a round object and trace around it, that is totally cool. That is fine with me. The only thing I don't want to see you do is make a dark line like that, because we want the sphere to be revealed using contrast. Now, the outside of this sphere here is a little fuzzy. So if I were to erase, that will make the contrast between the gray and the paper show up. Now, you can add a tiny bit more if you want to make that. Woo! Look what I did. Dadgummit. Phooey. Okay, well, it just gives you one more thing for you to see your teacher is not perfect. All right, so I'm going to get that off of there. Now, oh my gosh. Now, I'm going to really erase it so you can see. There's an eraser scar right there. What do? Well, easy. You take your tissue, just the clean side, and I'm going to blend that shading in just a little bit more. Alrighty. So I'm going to blend that a little bit. Yep, I got some of my background in there. So, but guess what? There's usually a way to fix mistakes. And in art, you do have to think about planning a little bit better. All right, so there's a sphere. And I'm going to shade this background a little bit. Now in the future, when we are doing pencil drawings, I will want to see a full range of value. So I'm not going to make that shadow super sharp, as you can see. And let's see if I can get it right through here. Now, that is a really good place for one of those stomps, because the stomps are actually pointed, and so you could actually get a point in there better. Alrighty, so moving on. Okay, you can look at my paper or you could create your own. So I'm going to get this little piece of paper here. We're going to curl it. Okay, just so we can have a little variation. Okay. Now, you can use any one of the techniques that we have here. Okay, so that is a piece of paper. It was like this, but you can see the difference because of the gray. You can make anything look 3D, imaginary or not, if you just know the basic principles. Where the light is hitting, see how it's even a little lighter right there? And then as it curves away, it gets a little grayer. As it goes more towards the light, it lightens. So, to get that, okay, I'm going to create sort of a little mustache. Okay, so see how lightly I'm drawing? Because we don't want the line to interfere. If you put a line around things, it will make it look cartoon. Okay, so we are done with Sharpie and hands. That was about design. Okay, so this is where my highlight is. Okay, I am going to, now you can do blended shading. Oh my goodness, Mrs. Rollins is messy. Look at that. She is going off of her shape. Why is she doing that? She is doing it on purpose because I don't want stop marks. I don't want break marks inside of my shape or my form. 3D objects are forms. Okay? Now, you guys can blend that if you want. Okay, now, this side, I need to do this. Just a little bit of that. Okay, and I'm barely moving my pencil. Do know that you're not going to have any black inside of this piece of paper. Okay, so I'm probably going to lighten up a little bit right here. Okay, now what I'm going to do though is I'm going to clean up this side. But I'm not going to clean up the first side because guess what? There is a shadow there. The shadow will give us that, I'm pulling my paper off. The shadow will give us a little bit of contrast there. Okay, so I can go back and I can put some more love on this. Okay, so The shadow for this curly object is not going to be curly though. It is going to be a flat, straight piece of paper because the light is coming from above. Now, again, whoops, I need to use a sharp one. Okay, again, doing a shadow is so much better if you can actually look at it. Okay, now the shadow underneath this thing is really not going to be black because the light is going through the paper as well. So if it were a black object and it kept the light from going all the way through, then we could probably get away with making it super black. And then as the shadow gets closer to the outside of the object, then it should lighten up. But you see how I was able to make contrast here and hide those pencil lines that I had. Alrighty, so one thing you can use is you can use a brush to get your pencil pieces off of there, your eraser pieces. I've got a, look, isn't that pretty? Okay, all right, so next thing, da-da-da. Okay, flat piece of paper again. So what we're gonna do this time is we're going to make a different shape. Okay, this is all about using contrast or a gradual shading. So this was a flat piece of paper and you saw that I just folded it. So you can see one side of the object is light and one side is gray, okay? You can tell that this was folded because of the contrast right there. And once again, we are not going to make this side black. All right, so how we're going to approach that is I'm going to make mine sort of look like this, okay, with a white side and a gray side. I'm going to show you the paper trick. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a V, and then we're going to do a smaller V in the background because as things go away from us, they get smaller. Alrighty, then we're going to join those like that. Now I'm going to show you the handy dandy paper trick, because there is some really nice contrast between these two, but there is no way a dark pencil line there is going to do well to represent, because you just have gray against white. You don't have a dark line in between. So what I'm going to do is I am going to protect the part that I want to have white. I'm going to get my handy dandy tissue here, and then I'm going to move the graphite over. You do not have to do it this way. You are welcome to shade like we did right there, but this is kind of fun. Okay, all right, ta-da! Look how 3D that is. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to create the shadow underneath to hide the lines. And let me sharpen my pencil. Okay, sharp pencils, sharp minds, right? Okay, so you see how I am shading with the object. That way I'm not having all of these extra lines going across. That is how you sharpen contrast, as you go with the object. Okay, so now I'm out of the danger territory and I can just do some sideways things right through here. Okay, then I can use my paper trick one more time and I can clean up some spots where I went over. Now, if you're ever interested in architecture, a lot of things happen on the computer, but real drawings, the architects actually use, and engineers as well, they actually use these little metal stencils. And they've got this big fancy brush that brushes their eraser stuff away without smearing their paper. All right, ta-da! So each one of these is 16 points a piece, and you can do this in stages. All right, good luck.